The Ascent, developed by Neon Giant and released in July 2021, currently available on the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, and PC, this indie gem is one of gaming's most overlooked cyberpunk games. If you love the gritty, neon-soaked world of a cyberpunk setting, explosive combat, and RPG-like mechanics, keep watching. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to get alleged notifications on when the next video drops. Now, let's step into the world of The Ascent and see what makes it one of the best kept secrets in cyberpunk gaming in this indie highlight. While major studios were pumping out multi-million-dollar cyberpunk projects, a tiny team of just 11 developers at Neon Giant were quietly crafting something special. That's right, The Ascent wasn't built by a massive AAA team, but rather a small group of passionate ex-AAA developers with a clear vision: to create an immersive cyberpunk world that felt alive, intense, and rewarding to explore. Neon Giant is a Swedish studio formed by ex-AAA devs, and they aimed to create that cyberpunk experience without corporate oversight, which is ironic given the plot of the game, but we'll get into that later. And unlike its AAA contemporary Cyberpunk 2077, which launched with massive expectations and, let's say, a troubled release, The Ascent flew under the radar, but delivered a complete experience right out of the gate. Their goal was to create that cyberpunk RPG where details mattered, from the dystopian world to the combat system that felt visceral and strategic. In the devs' own words, this wasn't just another indie game. It was a passion project built to rival the best in the genre. Right from the opening moments, it's clear The Ascent is doing something special. This is one of the most visually impressive and dense cyberpunk environments we've ever seen. The neon-soaked streets, packed with NPCs, volumetric fog rolling over rain-slicked pavement, and meticulously designed structures that give the world an overwhelming sense of scale. The story of The Ascent isn't just about survival. It's about power, control, and what happens when corporate greed spirals out of control. Oh, so it's based on real life. Cool. Anyway, the game opens up with this beautiful sprawl across this neon-drenched city as the setting for your adventure is set. You inhabit this futuristic dystopian arcology known as Velis, controlled by a powerful mega-corporation called the Ascent Group. Players assume control of a low-level worker, an indentured servant caught in a power struggle. After the mysterious collapse of the Ascent Group, the city descends into a chaotic free-for-all, pitting districts, syndicates, and rival corporations against each other for control. The player's role is to stop other factions from seizing control and uncover the mystery behind the demise of the Ascent Group. And this isn't just told to you. As you explore this densely packed world, you will see with your own eyes. The game doesn't just tell a story, it builds a world, complete with data paths, hidden logs, and environmental storytelling. So many areas you can just walk around and without a single line of dialogue, understand what's happened here and how we got to this point. If you love cyberpunk stories full of conspiracies, betrayal, and survival, The Ascent delivers in every way. The game is voice acted, although not fully, and the writing isn't going to blow you away, but it's serviceable to the point that it will keep you pushing along to figure out what's going on. I genuinely wanted to find out what happened to the Ascent Group. If it were based on the writing alone, I don't think I would have been interested, but the immersion, the environmental storytelling, the vibes, the sound, it just kept me coming back over and over. But if you're a fan of the channel, you know I always go for gameplay first, and that's where The Ascent really stands out. The Ascent takes the twin-stick shooter formula and elevates it. It's got a dash of Diablo, a reactive combat system, and RPG elements that truly impact the gameplay. Now, I know that some people have called this cyberpunk Diablo, but the comparisons stop with the camera view because this is not a looter shooter. Yes, there are weapons and gear for you to loot, but it is not the primary focus of the game, nor is it the focus of the progression systems. The way you build your character via the skill points are far more impactful than the loot itself. At first glance, The Ascent looks like your typical twin-stick shooter, but once you've gotten into the action, you realize it's way more than that. The game introduces some innovative mechanics that set it apart. Firstly, unlike most top-down shooters, you can aim high and low, allowing you to hit enemies behind cover or shoot over obstacles. Some enemies cannot be hit when you aim high as they scurry across the trash-littered floor. Alternatively, aiming high against certain enemies does more stagger than damage, and it's this careful balance that you'll have to manage as you fight off hordes of enemies. The game has a cool cover system for a top-down shooter like this. You can duck behind crates, shoot from behind cover, you can dodge, roll out of the way, and play defensively when needed. You have standard grenades and access to different types of weapons, everything from LMGs with hundreds of rounds to shotguns that will blow your enemies into these gory, bloody bits. And the feedback and sound is excellent and punchy in all the right ways. There are even melee weapons and melee-based moves that look and sound awesome as well. And it doesn't stop there. Guns can be upgraded, modded, and tailored to fit your playstyle. There are cybernetic augmentations. Do you want to launch an energy wave that fries your enemies? How about summoning a spider-bot army to do your work? Augmentations give you cyberpunk superpowers, making combat feel varied and dynamic. There will be scenarios where you're pinned down by a gang of cybernetically enhanced mercenaries. You pop behind cover, you activate your overclock ability, which boosts your fire rate, and then you toss a stasis grenade, freezing enemies in place before unloading a railgun shot. Or maybe you prefer your up-close build, and you activate your hydraulic slam, rush in with a shotgun, and carve through enemies like a badass. Combat in the Ascent isn't just about running and gunning, it's about choosing your tools, adapting to situations, and feeling powerful in a world designed to crush you. You might be thinking, well, this seems cool and all, but what else can you do? The Ascent isn't just a story rush kind of game. There are side missions, bounties, and collectibles, and even the side missions are voice acted. I got to do a side mission called Balls Deep where I had to collect feral testicles. So I mean, if you need the final reason to go play this game, this is it. Now visually, The Ascent is one of the most stunning cyberpunk games out there. From the moment you step into this game's dystopian setting, you realize how much detail went into crafting this game. The game is also incredibly scalable, and Neon Giant deserves kudos for that. The game runs on the base VCR Xbox One all the way up to a high-end PC with ray tracing and everything in between. Majority of the footage, both on-screen and off-screen, I've shown so far in this video has been from the Xbox Series X, but the game looks stunning on all platforms that it's available on. There are densely populated environments. You can see the cities are crowded with NPCs, giving it the feel of this true, lived-in cyberpunk dystopia. You also have particle effects and explosions that makes every firefight feel dynamic, bullets ricocheting, neon lights flickering, and debris flying. While the environments aren't fully destructible, I do appreciate that a lot of the cover can be broken and chipped away at. The game also has really excellent vertical level design. The game isn't just one-dimensional. You'll explore massive skyscrapers, underground slums, high-tech labs, which keeps the game feeling fresh. Now, on PC, you do have ray trace reflections and shadows, as neon lights bounce off the rain-slick streets, making every location feel that much more immersive. It's a world that reacts to you. It pulls you deeper into its neon-soaked atmosphere with every mission. Now, if I'm going to talk about the visuals, I really need to talk about the audio because, my god, the audio in this game is still better than some AAA games that release today. I don't possess the intimate expert knowledge on what goes into making a game sound this great, but I can identify a game with great audio when I hear it. I mean, just listen to this. In that first clip, I wasn't even doing anything. I was just existing in the space. But everything from the music, the ambiance, the punchy sounds of the guns, the deep bass of explosions, it's just an absolute treat for your ears, and I highly recommend playing this with a good pair of headphones or a surround sound system if you're so lucky. Now, while the combat and visuals make a very strong first impression, the Ascent also delivers on those RPG mechanics that let you shape your character and playstyle. There are skill trees that matter. Instead of just upgrading generic stats, you can specialize in hacking, tanking, agility, or raw firepower. There are meaningful gear choices. Every weapon and armor piece isn't just cosmetic, they have real stat changes allowing for unique builds. You also get those augmentations we spoke about earlier that can change your playstyle, whether you want to play as a long-range sniper, maybe a melee brawler, or an explosive area of effect damage dealer. Augmentations will give you tons of customization. The deeper you go, the more you realize the Ascent isn't just an action game. It's an RPG designed as a twin-stick shooter. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that you're going to get wildly different builds and this game has infinite replayability, because it doesn't, but it does scratch a bit of that RPG itch. Another aspect of the game that I really like is the fact that you have to go to certain vendors to upgrade yourself or apply augmentations. Yes, you can open up your menu and see basically all the same information, but I love taking my time to soak in all the game's beauty as I walk to a vendor to upgrade my character. If the Ascent is great solo, it's even better in co-op. Up to 4-player co-op, in fact. This game feels like it was designed with multiplayer in mind, making every firefight more intense and every mission more dynamic. That's not to say the game isn't fun solo, but it's a wildly good time with some friends. It's got a seamless drop-in, drop-out type of multiplayer, so there's no frustrating disconnects. There's also a shared loot system, so you don't have to fight over loot. Everyone can benefit. And then, because of the RPG mechanics, you can really come up with some cool tactical combinations. One player can tank with heavy armor, another one can do crowd control, and a third player perhaps could snipe from afar. The game also scales based on the party size, ensuring that every encounter isn't balanced. And as it's doing all of this, the game is running awesome. Now, before we get to my closing thoughts here, I do have to point out a few negatives with the game. One is the camera. You cannot turn the camera like in a traditional top-down game, and this can be frustrating, especially when you have enemies off-screen that can still see you and shoot you. It's not a deal breaker, but it is annoying. And two, the game on PC has horrendous shader compilation stutter when you first open up the game. That just means that the first time you play the game, you'll incur a stutter whenever you see a new asset come across your screen. For example, if you've never seen a specific ability before and you use it for the first time, you'll get a stutter. You do it again and it won't be there. I personally hate PSO stutter, but I know that it doesn't bother everyone in the same way, but I had to bring it up. At the end of the day, the Ascent proves that you don't need a massive studio to create something extraordinary. It's a love letter to cyberpunk, packed with incredible combat, stunning visuals, fun RPG elements, and some great co-op gameplay. Another great thing about the Ascent is that it's not a checklist game. It has a defined beginning and end, and you can probably see most of what the base game has to offer in about 20-ish hours. Did I mention the game even has DLC? Because it does, and it's awesome. Look, if you haven't played it yet, now's the time to fix that. The game goes for $29.99 USD retail, but often goes on sale. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this indie highlight, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to get legit notifications on when the next video drops. And drop a comment below. Have you tried the Ascent? Do you like cyberpunk type games? And do you want more games like this? Until next time, this is Ambro, keeping you plugged into the games that matter. Peace out.